That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
When the founding members of the United States Congress wrote into law the protection of citizens' right to free speech, it would be seen as a great step forward for the fledgling democracy. They could not possibly have foreseen that their ideals would be put to the test not only in the printed word, but within the realm of cyberspace as well. The shifting of political discourse and the dissemination of information from the traditional media outlets into the mostly wide-open forums of social media has taxed the definitions of protected speech greatly. With AI algorithms scraping up your data points, slamming the doors on perceived misinformation and bot activity, and large platforms stumbling attempts to rein in extremists and hate speech, the internet seems to be taking a strange turn from the largely unfettered freedom of its early days. This case file, join the theorists as they discuss the battle of the social media giants, big data, and the ultimate UFO disclosure, with the co-founder and CEO of the fast-growing alternative social media site, Minds.com, Bill Ottman.
Welcome to Alien Theorist Theorizing. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
Oh, and today we're going to welcome to the show co-founder and CEO of Minds.com, Bill Ottman. Thanks for coming on the show.
What's up, guys? Great to be here.
Thanks for staying up. Maybe your latest night of the while, it seems like. So we appreciate it.
I'm psyched.
All right, man. We've followed you around. We heard you on Rogan, and when I guess it was your PR guy reached out, we couldn't say no because we're right in the fight for virtual digital censorship and freedom of speech, trying to find a balance between the two. And I know you're big into that. So for people who don't really know you, besides the CEO of Minds, just maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I see you got a bass there. I play bass too.
Right on. We'll have to get more into that later.
I studied bass and music in college and wrote a lot of stuff. I actually used to be very anti-tech. I was kind of up in the mountains in Vermont, went to UVM, and I graduated in 2008. And I was just disgusted by everybody checking their phones constantly, and I was just not into it at all. And this is very I'm not proud of this story, but in one time I had my phone ring in the middle of a class and I just broke my phone. I just broke my phone in the middle of class. And, I'm not proud of that because it's there's so many people around the world that would just love to have a phone. So I'm just this asshole.
There's no way it was one of those Nokia brick phones. Those are indestructible.
Yes. It was a Samsung. It was a Samsung Flip. It was one of those gray. It was kind of the smooth gray flip phones. And I went over the edge. But then, I basically realized that there's this whole sort of split on the web. You've got big tech, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, but then there's this whole like cypherpunk sort of open source, free speech oriented world with like Linux and Firefox back in the day. Just, you know, you had the Tim May sort of crypto anarchy manifesto, the EFF, and John Perry Barlow. He wrote this thing called like the Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace. And, you know, he wrote lyrics for the Grateful Dead and was just kind of like this digital renegade dude. And I just got totally into it. And I saw how there's like, you know, the internet is basically like an extension of us. It's not like tech isn't bad. I was kind of brainwashed in a way. And then I was like, this shit's awesome. Let's build a crazy
You emerged from your Luddite cocoon to realize the benefits that tech is a tool mostly, and how you use it and how it's used depends on the user.
Exactly. And it just so happens that, you know, 95% of people are mindless drones using, you know, the wrong stuff, but that's not necessarily their fault. That's just how stuff is spreading. And so, and I also found all these correlations, and a lot of people in the free software movement have written about this, but just in terms of transparency, like on with food, you know, the organic food movement and like the idea of caring about what is in your food. I in college, I was obsessed with that.
Right.
And all into like local farming and all permaculture, all that kind of stuff. And then I started to see the overlap. It's like, oh, okay, like I don't want to use stuff that is feeding those corporations. So yeah, that basically, I dosed myself with that information.
So that sent you down, like you're pretty much saying like you want to know what's in your food. So you kind of want to know like how it's a digital food, right? We're consuming it all day, every day in different forms of media. So you come out of the cocoon and you decide to create, for those who don't know, like Minds is a free and open source, like you present your source code, like and it's social media, but it's free and open, and you're all for free speech and the rest.
Yeah. And we actually originally were doing, kind of before we started the company, me and some friends were organizing these forums / festivals like in IRL. And I was all into event organizing. I did music festivals, like Gathering of the Vibes, and in Connecticut, which is a huge festival. And it sort of just peaked in like live. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done live events, but it's fun, but it's so hard.
Stressful.
And stressful. And there's weather, and, you know, you put like 6 months of work into putting an event together.
Yeah, I'm the beneficiary of people like you. I just show up, perform for an hour, and off I go.
Yeah. So I got burnt out from that, but I love doing it. And I do like face-to-face stuff matters to me. And I don't want Minds to just be all about people sitting on their phone. And so we're still doing live events. We did a live event a few years ago with Daryl Davis and Tim Pool and a bunch of creators. And we sold it out in Philly. And we're going to be doing another one this summer. So like, I want the app to like help people connect. That's actually the one thing I like about dating apps, is that they aren't like, the goal is to meet somebody.
Right.
You know? It's like, it gets you like you use the phone to get off the phone. So I think that's,
you use the app to get off the app. Yeah, exactly. It's simplistic and it works.
Mm-hmm.
You're on there to meet someone with the same, what you're interested in. And that way you can stop using the app together.
Though I did have a friend tell me that during COVID, like everyone's doing video date. Like I'm married now. But everyone's doing a video date first. I was like, oh, dude, that's
weird.
That's brutal.
Oh, buddy,
weird.
That's the best for me. Shoulders up. Oh. Hey? I'd be batting way above my league.
Yeah. Go do some filters. Really. Yeah.
Get the background.
So, Bill, now that we got you here, you've kind of told people about what Minds is. It seems to be a less nefarious version of social media. Can you? Because you hear all the time, like Facebook and the big tech is tracking you. They're selling your data. You don't know where it goes or how you get there. You walk down the street, you walk by a certain store, all of a sudden it knows your GPS location. Next thing you know, you're getting ads for whatever store you just walked by, or you mention something with your friends, and all of a sudden you're getting ads for something. Like what's going on there? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's crazy. So, in terms of the selling your data, it's actually a little bit more nuanced than most people just be like, oh, they're selling your data to the highest bidder. It's actually not true. It doesn't make it less malicious. Like, Facebook wants maximum control. Right. So they aren't just like giving away people's data to like everyone and their mother. Like, they don't, but what they are doing is they're selling sort of a shielded access to that data. And so they, in different ad networks and vendors can basically join their data with Facebook's data in sort of this shielded way so that both parties are happy. Now, Facebook obviously has crazy psychographic profiles about you, and they're sharing it with the government. So, that's what we learned from Prism and all the Snowden revelations, that there's basically backdoors or, clearly revolving doors between the government and Facebook. And we learned about that recently with, Jen Psaki saying that, we're basically having, telling social networks to take down studies, COVID misinformation. So that there's lines of communication with the government in terms of the censorship and in terms of the surveillance. So, that's about as malicious as it gets. So whether Facebook is giving it to, some advertiser or not, and giving like shielded access, it's just as bad. So that is that. And then, in terms of the mic stuff, this is like, I'm so interested. There's this article that just came out in NextWeb actually called Muting Your Mic Reportedly Doesn't Stop Big Tech from Recording Your Audio.
Really?
And so like what they're saying is to double mute on your computer. So like when you mute on Zoom, like they can still grab your audio.
Well, so because your audio is going through, it's being processed, and you're just stopping it from going across.
So what you want to do is actually mute both your computer and the app to be more safe. But like there's this whole university study out of University of Madison, Wisconsin. And they like analyzed a bunch of different apps and, to trace audio patterns. And they basically figured out that tons of apps are still grabbing your audio after you mute. And, we know this from, just the fact that you can activate Google by saying, okay, Google,
right,
even if it's off.
Well, the creepiest thing about that too is that, I remember my parents had one of those, the little Google Homes or whatever. And then I remember reading an article saying that, like, do you know it saves what it records, and you can find that information through a bunch of hidden channels. And I'd go into it, and it would have 5-minute clips of a conversation where Google wasn't even mentioned. And it just recorded a full 5-minute audio clip of just people talking that were in the room. And you're like, well, why? It wasn't even supposed to be activated because no one said, hey, Google. No one said even like a word close to Google, but it decided to turn itself on and record a 5-minute conversation. Like, you're like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I'm deep in I'm trying to install Graphene on my phone right now. It's not easy. But it's called Graphene OS. It's basically this like stripped down version of Android without any Google stuff in it. I'm not actually like a full stack dev or a developer. Like, I'm technical and I'm kind of product manager and like building apps, but I'm not actually a programmer myself. So, I would have had graphene on my phone a long time ago, but I'm finally making myself do it. I do run Linux and try to, do things to stop all that stuff from happening. But at the same time, it's just like, I'm not perfect. Like I definitely, look, we're on Zoom. You got to do what you got to do. I do think that over time more apps are going to emerge that make it easier to make the decision to, not use apps that are screwing with you. So that's like what it's all about. And I think it is starting to happen app by app. There's starting to be like an alternative to X, Y, and Z. So, and yeah.
Sorry, I just want to stop you on the graphene. So it's obviously Android. It's not an open source, is it? So
Android is open source.
Android is open source. So if you're technical enough, you can take that. Is this graphene something that's you can download it if you're technical enough, you can install it yourself, or do you got to know someone?
Yeah, you can, I don't know if you've ever installed like Ubuntu or Debian on...
You're talking to the wrong crowd.
Andrew here's laughing.
Hey, boys, I put in a fucking hard drive myurself a couple months ago.
Andrew still has a Nokia brick phone.
Nice.
I switched my flip phone when I'm not at work.
Oh, whoa.
That's good. Keeps me, I get distracted by
it's not that hard. It's, you have to, read a doc on one computer and then do it on another computer. It's not easy, but I don't know. I sleep a little bit better and I feel like I'm supporting them. And if I'm going to be, talking about open source, it's like I have to do what I can to walk the walk and not just feed the beast at the same time. So graphene, basically Android. So Google created Android. Android has, out of the box has Google's tentacles all throughout it. So even though the core part of Android is open source, it's one of the best things Google's actually ever done is create Android, but it's just full of surveillance. So if you want a de-Googled version of it, there are people who have basically forked Android and like taken all that stuff out. And, I think in the next 5 years, there's going to be really sick, easily installable OSs for your phone where you can just swap out Google on an Android. With iPhones, you can't. That's why iPhones suck compared to other phones, because you can't, they don't let you install something else. And like in the App Store, you can't install an app on an iPhone outside of the App Store. Right. It's totally locked down.
That was actually I had that on my list of questions. So because Apple came out not that long ago with they claim like the Apple privacy, you can turn off your location services. How true is that? Like, because they were selling that as like a big feature of the new operating system.
Honestly, it feels like a huge gaslight to me. It's so obnoxious. Like basically, I do think it's good in the App Store. Like they're not allowing Facebook and Google to spy as easily. But the thing is that we really have no idea. Right. And this is the same for all the apps because they're not open source, we have no idea what they're actually doing. So Apple is not, they can talk how they want about privacy. But then I believe like recently there was this big scandal because they wanted to backdoor into people's phones to like look for child porn. And then there was, a big uproar about that because they were scanning people's messages looking for child porn. And like, at the end of the day, you do need to kind of make a hardcore philosophical decision on what you believe about end-to-end encryption. And like, I'm definitely of the camp that, a backdoor into anyone's device makes everybody less safe. Yeah, it sort of sucks that bad people will use encrypted apps, but everyone is more safe when everything is end-to-end encrypted. So, it's not worth giving up your freedom to, let the government go and find some pedophiles. Like, it's just not worth it. It's the same argument as giving up your freedoms for, anything, whatever the issue is. It's just, they try to tempt people into it, but
It's like that.
It's not the way to go.
Like the totalitarian tiptoe. Just give us a little of this for your safety kind of style.
Exactly.
One, it's an unelected. It's a weird thing where they're not. Big tech is in this weird bubble where they have such heavy influence, but they're not. They have no. They don't have to give back to us. They don't. They don't have to answer to the people.
I think that's an important distinction that we have to make about social media sites like now, being that social media sites is essentially like, I wouldn't necessarily lump them as media, you're more platforms. Is that correct? Like you could be more defined as a platform, a place for people to post things, interact, things like that. Facebook, like they've gotten away with it for a long time, skirting the issue of being like, they're not regulated. The FCC can't step in, the government can't tell them what to post, what they can really do. And essentially just standing back and be like, we're not responsible for whatever people post on there. We're just an open forum, whatever. And most social media sites kind of take that stance.
Well, you would want them to take that stance, but they're starting to take the stance of, we're going to take all this stuff down because it's against our, community guidelines.
Well, we got smashed with that, Bill. We got smashed with that. We had a group that had some pretty good reach with our members, and we got shadow banned because we had 2 strikes where they would remove a post, but they wouldn't show us what was posted, or like if it was posted by some member of the group or what, it would just say this post was removed because of content.
It's just blank
violation. And then it's like, you click here to view the post. You view the post. There's no post. Post unavailable. You're like, well, I don't know what it was. And our 3rd strike, we got flagged for fake news because someone posted saying, is this what really happens in Canada? And it was someone had bought a bulk peanut butter with a saran wrap, and it said peanut butter, and it was like $5. It's like, this is what people buy in Canada. They buy peanut butter like this. And it was like, that's fake news. And we got flagged for fake news. And the funny thing is at Quality Foods up the road, you can buy peanut butter just like that.
It's because they said it was a picture that originated from like Trinidad or something. But that's it. So that was fake because they said, is this from Canada? And that was it.
And the group's gone?
No, it's not gone. It just instantly flatlined and there was no reach ever again. That was it.
Wow. So how many members are in it?
It was like there's been 4,000. It was like, it was growing 5 or 7% every month since we started it. And then it just like 8 months ago, just went dark, just flatlined. Yeah. So funny.
We went through it. Like back early on, and we still have the pages, but a few million followers on like a handful of different Facebook pages. Back in like 2012, we were driving crazy traffic to mines from Facebook, just posting all kinds of crazy viral videos, like whatever, this like acoustic levitation.
The fun stuff.
Just fun stuff. And, it was cool. And then reach just across Facebook dropped to like 2% of your followers you're hitting organically. And then beyond that, the algorithm is deciding what it's going to be. And it's just like, and there was, this hit the whole media. It wasn't just targeting the left or right or, alternative media. It was like, even the mainstream media was pissed about this. They were like, we just spent millions of dollars building up this page and we can't reach everybody now. Like what? People we paid for these followers and now we can't reach them. And so, a ton of companies went out of business in some of those first major algorithm changes. A lot of media companies, like sites like Upworthy, were just gutted. That's like a good news site. You guys probably heard of them. Yep. They would just kill it on Facebook. Every post getting like 50,000 likes. They're probably driving like 100 million views a month to their site, making a bunch of money. Feeling good about it, investing in it, and then suddenly just go, bye-bye.
Gone.
There goes your company. And Facebook just pulled it. Like that is so unethical and such a betrayal to the whole community. Like regardless of who you are, everyone invested like a decade building up their pages. And then Facebook's just like, oh no, we're just going to change. We're going to put stuff in people's newsfeed. Like the basic social contract of social media is I subscribe to you. I get your post. Like that's what it's supposed to be. And if it's not that, then it's not even social media, actually. And this is what, to what you were saying before about like publishers versus platforms. I mean, they do become more publisher-like when they're curating your newsfeed. Like they're just injecting ads and like stuff that you're not even subscribed to, that, like on Instagram right now, literally more than half of the stuff in your feed, you're not even subscribed to.
Right.
And I'm not saying like sometimes the algorithm's like crazy good and you're like, whoa, like I actually do want to watch that.
Yeah.
But like, that doesn't mean that it's cool. And like, so what we do is default chronological, because that is the core social contract. Like we will never change that. The default feed is chronological. If people want to change it to like a top feed or a trending feed, they can.
Right.
But I think that that's really important.
That's how it all started, right? Back to like MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
Your friends post, you see what your friends post in order, and you carry on about your day. And now it's like, I remember reading something that's like, so people started posting less on Facebook. So Facebook started recommending groups for you and recommending this post and you're like, so exactly. You don't even know, like you didn't search for it. You weren't interested in it. And now you're onto it. And that kind of brings you to like, because they obviously make all their money from advertising. So when a controversial topic comes up, even if you weren't interested in it to start with, and say you clicked on one post and you lingered a little too long, all of a sudden now you're getting that feed. You're getting those posts more and more and more frequent. Yeah. And,
I think that those types of recommendation algorithms, I'm not, inherently, to me, the core news feed has to be maintained so that you have control over what you're getting in your main news feed. In terms of recommendations, like, honestly, if it's related to what you're following, like I don't necessarily have a problem with the recommendation feed tailoring to, helping you find good stuff. Like that's because that's supplementary. It's not messing with the basic communication between brands or people and their friends.
Now, what do you think about, because we are in the weird time, we've kind of touched on it, like the social media as like censorship, like the influence of big tech on pretty much filtering, pretty much the ability to like sway public opinion. Like this has never happened before, where like private companies, can dictate what is.
Oh, look at what happened to you. Like you got flagged for a picture of peanut butter.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That is really sick. That's dark dystopian stuff.
So you mentioned before about the use of algorithms, so artificial intelligence within the social media platform communities, so different Twitter and Facebook, seeing as they have the large user base, millions and millions upon user, like millions of users, if not billions. And so your site doesn't use, you tout, like you don't have an AI moderator thing. You don't use artificial intelligence
to the extent they do. Well,
to the extent they do.
Yeah, like algorithms are not bad. That's like saying math is bad.
Right.
It doesn't.
Well, let's all be real.
Well, it's hard.
Man, it's hard.
It's fucking hard, boys.
But AI, machine learning, these are like amazing tools. Actually, you can do really cool stuff with them. But it has to be transparent and clear to the user, and the user has to have the ability to control it. So, I think that a lot of people, it's easy to sort of get into an anti-AI frame, but AI is going to do so many amazing things for the world. It just has to be open source. If it's not open source, it can very quickly get evil. And all of big tech's AI is closed source. So
I don't know. Yeah. Dude, you got me looking at my phone right now like it's fucking Skynet. Okay. After this conversation.
We're not far away, man.
I'm going to burn this shit. The thing that really concerns me is like I'm a sports stooge. So I spend way too much time on Twitter. And I've been noticing now, like they're just straight up banning accounts and removing people's platforms completely. Right. And the thing that really worries me about that, right, is like you're taking away these people's platforms, which in my mind makes me think that they're going to be forcing these people into darker spots where no one, like these darker areas, which could essentially work as like an echo chamber where they're only fucking hearing, they're surrounded by their own groups of people where, normal people can't comment and be like, whoa, man, give your fucking head a shake. This is ridiculous. Right. So they're only hearing people, they're hearing that echo and being like, oh yeah, man, fucking rights. And then since you don't have these platforms anymore, what else are you going to do? Well, why don't we meet in person? Yeah. And how much easier is it to radicalize in fucking person than it is over the internet?
Yeah, no, that is an amazing description of the flow of events. It's not that complicated either. It's like that is a totally logical escalation path. And obviously crazy people escalating into extremism and violence are, not mentally well, but you can understand why they feel reinforced in their beliefs and they feel victimized. And then they go off into these other places and, get more insane. So yeah, that's literally what's happening. And the ridiculous part of it is that their big tech apps are acting like they're on some sort of moral crusade to stop hate speech and misinformation and create healthier dialogue, but it's all BS. Like they don't have any actual evidence justifying their policies. So we wrote this whole paper called The Censorship Effect. It's at minds.com/change. You can find it. 80 pages. We partner with multiple PhDs, Daryl Davis. And we just found all the research that shows that censorship accelerates radicalization. And we even tried to steelman the other argument and did acknowledge that, radicalization can happen obviously on any app. If you get into a little group and you talk to people, like, yes, you're going to be influenced by their ideas. But just to what you're saying, if you lose access to people who have different opinions, what's going to happen?
Right. You just get forced into it.
And the offline thing that you said, so Dr. Nafis Hamed wrote one of the studies that we reference in the paper, and he basically proved that only 20% of cognitively radicalized people are online. That only 20% of people online who are cognitively radicalized escalate into violent extremism. 80% of the people who are escalating into violent extremism it's happening offline.
Right.
They are really ready to do crazy shit and are going and meeting up. They don't want to, they know they're being spied on. If you're actually going to do a terrorist plot, you're not going to do it online. That they're watching you. So that is what is happening. And so when you see something online that offends you or is, some crazy hate speech or, religious extremism, it's easy to see that and get triggered by it and be like, oh my God, I'm scared. I'm going to have a panic attack. But that the existence of that speech online is actually arguably good because that person is accessible. They're communicating their ideas. They can potentially get engaged with by people who are different from them. If they're not specifically advocating violence, you could decide to, rather than to get triggered by it, treat it as more of an opportunity. And that's what Daryl's work teaches us. Anyone who doesn't know, Daryl Davis, famous musician, Black man who convinced over 200 members of the KKK to leave the KKK. Right. And he did that by befriending them. So
this might be me just being a little bit more of a devil's advocate, but what about in the cases of something like people who are they're just mouthpieces, or they're in extreme cases, they're probably bad faith actors. They're putting the stuff out there posters. Just to
shit posters.
Yeah. So what is that? Or, even we've seen it before, we've done stuff about the Internet Research Agency back when Russia was still kind of, performing their whole entire misinformation campaigns and their bot campaigns. And they're not the only country or probably state funded or state backed organizations that other countries have. Like, what about those cases? Like, what should be done about those?
I treat what should be allowed on a network similarly to what should be allowed as speech so we're a US company. So in the US, we're roughly loose or based on the First Amendment. I don't expect our team and our lawyers, nor any lawyers at any big tech company, to come up with a better content policy than the First Amendment. Like, think about how arrogant that is to think that your like couple lawyers that you hired for your app are going to do something that is more effective for discourse than the First Amendment, which has been battle tested for centuries, and people all over the world would like give their life to be able to come here and utilize that policy. So, however, that being said, just because I think something should be able to exist in some form on a network doesn't mean I think it should be necessarily promoted. And also, I think that we should have really clear visualizations and indicators if something is suspicious or is potentially propaganda, and lots of different kinds of educational UI indicators to help people learn how to like understand what they're seeing and critically think for themselves and decide if something is propaganda or not. Like, learn how to research. You can't expect to teach. You're not.
So your team flags misinformation. Like, comparing this just off the top of my head to like Facebook, which has been, before they got kind of, I guess now is a bit draconian, where they're just like blocking everything completely, taking a whole off. I mean, I do see they do have the tag that be like, this has been flagged as misinformation, or independent fact checkers have deemed this to be misinformation in some other sites. Right. Yeah. So it's like, do you institute some kind of policy like that, or is it you guys just let it fly?
We have pretty sophisticated filtering tools for like NSFW content and, different types of controversial content, so that, you have to opt into those types of content in order to see them. So that's kind of like layer one. And in terms of the fact checking stuff, this is something that we are building now. But the way that big tech does fact checking is a total joke. It's basically they partner with like a dozen think tanks, and then those think tanks decide if something is true or false. And then that's what it says on the post.
Well, and they also flag you. And then if you're like, well, hey, I don't agree with that, you have your 14 days to file your appeal to an oversight board that looks at maybe 18 cases a year. And the 18 cases they choose to look at are like of big importance. So what are the odds they're going to look at ATT's peanut butter post to see if we should be on, right? I don't think we're going to see the oversight board's, the recent case decision on the fake false peanut butter advertisement.
We're malicious.
Popping up on the
peanut
oversight board anytime soon. So it's like they know that. Like, so it's like, there is no recourse for anyone smaller that doesn't have like a big, really big media push or, has a big following to try to lure that to get picked by the oversight board to get your case reviewed. There is no recourse. It's just like, and it's funny because as you read through it and you're like, it's telling you, yeah, these are the steps. And you're like, well, are you fucking kidding me? They're never going to look at this. Are you kidding me? We're just fucked. Like, that's it.
I mean, we're looking into building like a visualization on posts so that you can see the debate on both sides of the headline. So say there's some, crazy headline about climate change. And everybody's talking about it. Then there would be sort of like a hover option on a post, and you see, okay, this is what the left is saying. This is what the right is saying. This is sort of the bias detection on this. These are the different sources that, you can check out to educate yourself. Not that it's not our business to tell people what to believe or what is true or false. It's our position to give people as many resources as they can to make an informed decision for themselves. And I think that this is where big tech is just taking this, completely backwards. And, propaganda obviously is a problem, but, like propaganda is not illegal. It's not illegal to also, post a BS article about acupuncture or chiropractic.
Right.
Like that's like people have the right to be a moron. That's okay.
You got four of them right here.
All posts about you could argue all posts about chiropractics.
So Billy, pretty much your stance on censorship as far as these big companies, because I've listened to other interviews you've done, and if it's legal, it should be allowed. Obviously, illegal activity, it's against the law. So therefore doxing or anything that could be malicious is illegal, and it should be. That's against the law. So it should.
We have a report flow with all different kinds, and we ban people every day. It's not like we don't. It's just complete chaos. We definitely abide by the law, and look, we're not alone too. Like this whole debate just went front and center, basically in global news. Elon. I don't know if you guys watched his talks recently, but he's literally saying the exact same thing. He's saying open source the algorithms. Twitter has to be free speech, according to the law. That's it. That's what we need for our public square. That's just, and that doesn't mean that, there aren't cool tools that we can use to make sure that people aren't absorbing propaganda, Russian propaganda and misinformation. People will try to basically strawman you when you take a position on something like free speech, and they'll try to say, oh, you believe in free speech, so therefore you don't care about misinformation. But these things can coexist. You can figure out cool technical solutions to battle misinformation, meanwhile, without destroying people's ability to communicate freely.
Yeah, the interesting thing, one of the things I was reading about Elon and this hostile takeover is that one of the propositions was that you can pay and verify yourself by showing your identity, whatever, logging your government IDs or whatever, get a blue check mark, and you pay a fee, and boom. Because that way you could still have these fake news bots and these fake news things, except it would cost a fortune to run them. Right? Because it would cost you a fortune to verify all these accounts in order to do that, to look real. Right? So there's now a
absolutely,
cost.
Yeah. It's basic. So in computer science, it's called Sybil resistance. And it's this idea of, you're less likely to get attacked if there is a prohibitive cost for the attacker. So this is pretty much how Bitcoin and Ethereum are designed to prevent attacks. And, you have to pay for a transaction. And I think that's a totally reason. The whole, somehow our Twitter got verified, but the whole Twitter, that's a whole elitist, boys club situation where, a friend of a friend, they're verifying each other. The whole thing is a scam. It's not open to everybody. It's totally subjective. There needs to be there needs to be clear definitions on what verification is. On Minds, anybody can submit verification, and but then there's different badges that mean different things. So I don't think that everybody should have to give a government ID. The right to anonymity is important. Even the UN, firmly says that for human rights, you need anonymity, particularly because in war-torn countries and authoritarian countries, if you speak out against the government and the government knows that it's you and you do that on the internet, you're going to jail. So you need anonymity in certain countries. But you could still have a badge like Michael Saylor. I don't know if you know him. He was just on Lex's podcast, Lex Fridman's show, and was talking about this idea of an orange check mark so you could put up a little Bitcoin collateral. And if you put up, and then if you misbehave, Twitter just takes your collateral. So it's similar to what you're saying. You're putting up money, and that is a protective mechanism to enforce your behavior. And it makes it so that bots, whoever is running the botnet just would never have enough money to engineer something en masse.
Well, yeah, the mass.
I like that
attacks.
idea because it's creating that accountability, right? Without like, I remember when the new CEO took over Twitter, some of his, his first tweets were basically stating that he's going to be there. He looks forward to creating a healthy environment. And it's like, who the fuck is deciding what the healthy environment is? Right? A bunch of stooges sitting in, Silicon Valley gets to decide what's healthy to be on Twitter. Like that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, no, the definitions are just being completely contorted. And it was really interesting to see the only board member, and I think Dorsey is I think he's still on the board, but he's leaving, and he only has 2% of stock. The rest of the board at Twitter has basically no stock. They all have like 0.002% stock. So the board of Twitter has they don't even really have financial interest in Twitter. So,
what's the standing of their shares? Are they, because some companies have different types of shares that are worth more than other ones. I think Google kind of has those combos, which are like privileged shares where you have like voting rights and stuff. Like what's their?
Yeah. Of course they're on the board. Like they have power. I'm not saying that they don't have a legal structure that makes sense, but I'm saying that there's going to be some crazy lawsuits that happen if this deal doesn't go through. And it's like, we're witnessing really historic stuff with this, with this thing right now. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Cause with, Musk is arguing that, it should be up to shareholders to decide if they want to, because he's making the argument that the board doesn't hold enough shares to veto him buying Twitter at his proposal, which they have. They've been like, no, we're not doing it. And he's like, well, no, it should go to all the shareholders.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the board has a fiduciary duty to act in the interest of shareholders.
Right. And so isn't that what they said to him? Like they offered him, like, we can put you on the board, but you have to become a fiduciary. Like you have to be beholden to the same rules that we are. Essentially, that would put his standing at risk because like the SEC could technically come after him. And whether he's trolling the SEC or not, like that's something else that's people have been saying that it's like, maybe this is a good thing that he's exposing the weaknesses that some of these big tech companies that are beholden to venture capitalists, like they have rich people that got too much money can go in and buy these things and nobody's standing in their way. Because I mean, the way we're talking about it, it seems that we're putting all the responsibility. It's like the little person versus big tech, but the singular person can only do so much. Like who should enforce these rules? Who should determine, like Andrew said, who should determine like what is a healthy cyber ecosystem? Like what is that? And who should enforce the rules or the regulations that, I mean, we have stuff that in the United States, we have like OSHA. Like we have OSHA that enforces workplace safety regulations. Right. Like, should there be an organization and legislation that should?
There already is stuff too. I mean, there's the whole idea of a common carrier, and phone companies are subject to this. So like phone companies of a certain size, they can't deny you service because, you're a political radical.
Right.
So, Clarence Thomas, the one of the Supreme Court justices, actually is an advocate of big tech becoming, after they reach like whatever it is, 50 million users or something, that they have to behave as common carriers. I think that is and that's essentially what Elon is advocating. And that's actually what we do, even though, we've got like 6 million users, like we're a tiny fraction, but like we're sort of doing that on a micro scale, because we just believe it's the right thing to do anyway. So yeah, I mean, look, and it's crazy because Dorsey, you see him speak, like he called out his board for being dysfunctional in a tweet like yesterday, but then he also voted for the poison pill that they just all collectively voted for, so that if, any individual shareholder gets more than 15% stock, then they can dilute, and basically make it impossible to take over. So, it's going to be crazy to see what happens this week. I think he's probably pulling together some billionaire friends. And
Vanguard just ousted him as the leading shareholder. They bought 11%. So there's something in the works. Something's coming down the pipe. What's going to happen? It's going to be interesting.
Well, Vanguard and what's it? Vanguard and what's the other one? Blackstone or whatever. BlackRock. Those are the two. Yeah, those equity, like those firms are huge. Like there's no a singular person like Musk would not be able to go up against any of that, because those are made up of like hundreds of thousands of people's like funds all together.
Right.
Like those that are managed by those companies. So it's like there's no way in hell that like Musk would have enough equity to like go up against one of those things that manage like retirement funds and, housing, all that kind of stuff that they have all those money in. It's like he won't be able to whatever they're going to do. But the battle is important. Like what is happening is important.
He's going to be, the user base is on his side pretty clearly. Like I think that you have this group of journalists and, a certain sliver of users who are, sort of standing on this high horse, acting as if, censorship is better for democracy. Like, honestly, it is, I can't wrap my head around their arguments. And this is basically the same argument that Twitter themselves are making. And, Parag Agrawal, the Twitter CEO, made in that statement that you referenced, where he was talking about, some weird definition of healthy community. And they just don't have any data proving that what they are doing with all of the deplatforming is creating a better, more healthy community. Like the data shows the opposite. So I'm open to have my mind changed. Honestly, if they can come up with research that is compelling, that proves that what they're doing is actually, making the internet a better place and, actually facilitating things like de-radicalization and more healthy discourse. But I think it is a complete joke. They don't have evidence, and they're sitting there acting like, this content is causing real world harm. But like, what do you mean? Like, I have evidence over here showing that actual, violent extremists. I mean, all right, here's like a very basic story. The YouTube shooter. I mean, a woman was, and this is like sort of an isolated incident, but like a woman was banned from YouTube. She was like this Middle Eastern dancing. She had like a dancing channel on YouTube. She got banned. She walked in YouTube headquarters and shot 2 people. Like this, people have negative psychological reactions when they feel like, they're getting their voice taken away from them. So
that could have been her only platform in her entire life, her only chance to get out there, and it was taken from her.
Yeah.
Like that's
people. It's personal, and that's what's scary, because we're all building up all these platforms and we don't have any ownership of them. And, that's why crypto, I think, is really important. That's why we're putting a lot of energy into crypto, giving people control over their money, over their identity, over their content, so that like your stuff is your stuff. Your audience is yours, and you can kind of control that, and you're not subject to like, even if like something happened with us, like we're trying to basically engineer a system where we're not the risk. Like we put in this whole jury system so that users can appeal if we make a bad decision, and then it goes to a community jury, and the jury can vote against us. Right. So because, we're a company, like, I'm doing my best to make sure that, we do it the right way. But like at the end of the day, I think much more of like a community governed system is better in the long run, rather than having a company
like a gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper.
Gatekeepers is telling you, oh, too many people complained about that because it hurt their feelings. Therefore, now this is off topic.
Well, that's the hell situation that Dorsey and Zuckerberg are all in. Like, someone gets banned and then everyone's like yelling at them, and like that, that does. Well, we have free speech policies, so that barely ever happens. And and there have been a couple of mistakes, and I'll like personally go and like get them back on. But I don't want to be in that position. I have no interest in like being the determiner of somebody's fate with their communication. Like I want them to have control over their communication. And we're just sort of like facilitating that.
I love to hear it. And I mean, I think we joined Minds in 2019. We've been notoriously bad in all social media, so we haven't done a lot.
Nice. What's your username?
That's a good question. I think we're just at
Alien Theorist Theorizing.
Yeah, at Alien Theorist Theorizing. I just updated the banner and stuff the other day when we found out that you were coming on, and I made a couple posts and kind of poked around in there, and it's kind of like
nice.
It runs like Facebook when it first came out. Like, you know, that's what kind of what it reminded me of. Like you see all the people you like. There was no ad, like there was no ads on my page. Leaf. I don't know if you can buy ads or promote or what, but we're definitely gonna follow up more on it because it's right up our alley.
100%.
Yeah, I just found you. I just
Facebook and hate Instagram.
I'll blow you guys up this week, and I'm about to send you some tokens too. We've got this whole token reward system where basically you earn every day for your contributions, and then one token is worth 1,000 views. So you can use the tokens that you earn to boost your posts for more exposure. And we basically did that in reaction to what we were talking about before about the restrictive algorithms. Like we want to help people get their stuff seen.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it's karaoke system, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a queue of songs and you're like, God damn, I want to hear this song, right? Or I'll throw $2 and that song will go to the top of the queue. But there's still the line of songs that are still coming.
Right.
Yeah. And I had a kind of question about that, like just a little bit to get into a little bit deeper about that. Now, like studies have shown that the posts that get the most interaction on most social media sites are posts that evoke strong emotions like outrage. So how do you kind of how would you say like these? What would you say to somebody who would say essentially your system might be used to endorse, or it would be promoting, like rewarding people for posting stuff that is making people really angry or outraged? Like normally these things like misinformation or even the fucking videos I hate are the bad DIY videos that people post are really shitty do-it-yourself videos. And you're like, this shouldn't take this long. Why did you do that? That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And then everybody posts on that, but they did it just to people do it intentionally.
Right,
I know it's a bunch of videos are like two brothers out of like Europe or something like that do those. Like, what would you say to that? Like,
yeah, I mean, we have this tool that we rolled out a couple months ago called Build Your Algorithm. And so you can actually control your recommendations, and like, there's these sliders. So you can say like, I want more ideas that I disagree with, or less ideas that I disagree with. I want more stuff from the left, more stuff from the right, or I want, I have this tolerance to explicit content. Like, so we're trying to give as granular control over what you're getting as possible. At the end of the day, like also, you subscribe to what you subscribe to. So to a certain degree, I do think that people should have the freedom to curate their own situation. Like, that's what right now, what is happening on Instagram and TikTok and everywhere. They are curating what you are seeing. And yes, they are elevating the more sensational stuff because they know, it's getting X engagement and it's bringing out these certain reactions. And so we're going to elevate that in the feed. And, honestly, things need to be taken on a case by case basis. Like, because if something is sensational, I don't know, there could be something that is amazing and very valuable for humanity that is sensational, or that is, that makes you mad potentially. I'm not saying that it's good for people to be mad, but if there's a piece of content like of a missile strike in Ukraine that is like breaking news, and that happens to become the top trending video, like, that's what's going on in the world. I mean, are we really like, just because it is creating emotion? I don't know. I mean, I do think that if stuff is being like, we are pretty strict against bots and like inauthentic activity. Like there's these accounts from like Nigeria and Turkey and whatnot, these sort of like clusters of users who have like Telegram channels and whatnot, and they'll come.
Yeah, all the princes that want to sell us, want to transfer money into our accounts.
That's real.
100,000.
That's real.
Starting. Yeah,
that's real. You'll be. Hey, you guys won't be laughing when I show you my bank account. It's empty right now, but it's coming.
They basically coordinate, and this happens on Instagram too, everywhere. These little circles and rings will coordinate this, like, hey, we'll all vote on each other's stuff, and we'll like get huge on social media. On mine, you happen to be able to earn crypto for doing that. So we do get some of these communities like trying to engineer this token creation, and we're pretty strict against that. And we are starting to be able to detect it. So with inauthentic engagement and like coordinated activity, like social graphs can show that pretty easily. So it's actually shocking to me that Twitter hasn't been able to fix a lot of the crypto scams, and that they've just ignored. That's one of the things that Elon is most pissed about. So, I mean, so many people have lost so much money from that kind of stuff. But also at the end of the day, I think people need to be educated more in the UI of these apps about like explaining to them what misinformation, disinformation even mean. Like, what is propaganda? Like, what should you be on the lookout for? What should you be on the lookout for crypto scams? Like, don't give your seed phrase to some random person who says that they are the MetaMask support team. Like Twitter could put something like that into the UI. Yeah. Like the problem is so bad that it would basically be worth it for them to do that, but they're not. So I don't know. I really am shocked that not a single big tech company has decided to take more of like an ethical position on these issues. And yeah, I mean, I hope that the Twitter thing works out. It's because I don't know. I don't see it happening on any other app, to be honest.
Yeah. So stay tuned. It's a wild times, the digital universe there. Now I know it's late for you, but we talked about it just a little bit before we started.
No rush.
Thoughts on aliens?
Yeah,
what do you think?
I'm deep. I used to be so deep, and was I've had conversations with people like Richard Dolan and
that guy's awesome.
We've had him on.
He's a nice guy.
So we've had Rich on.
He's a beauty.
He's a nice guy.
Oh yeah,
nice guy to talk to.
He's a gem. I mean, his books are incredible. He's a legitimate historian. Like, he's not messing around. He's going through the declassified material, and is very reserved in the leaps that you don't need to make leaps. I mean, it's out there,
right?
So. We're at the point where things have become like almost comical. I was mentioning this guy, Christopher Mellon, who was he worked at To the Stars. Well, he worked for at the National Intelligence, and he basically he just wrote this op-ed in The Hill called "How Government Overclassification May Hide UFO Videos and Harm Our Security." And because, so we know after the whole TikTok thing and with like Elizondo and, all.
Was he the one that said he got handed? He was the one that was handed the videos. Yeah. Is that the same guy?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
That's him.
All right. Yeah, I know the guy.
And so basically this new group was formed. Remember, it was like crammed into the infrastructure bill. There was like a little UFO line item to like create this.
Well, they were just basically restructuring it. They had, ATIP was before, and like we found out about that from like 2018, and then this one they're making the new kind of
they had to figure out a new
task
acronym.
Force, whatever UAP task force, I think is its name, and it's going to be under the purview. I think is it the
UAPTF? Yeah. So I'll just read one quick paragraph from this article. It's just insane. So yeah, this new group it's an evolution of the old group, exists now. It says further evidence of this new effort to suddenly classify photographic information, which a formal U.S. Air Force investigation recently determined did not cause any damage to national security, is evident from the UAPTF Security Classification Guide, which appears to classify virtually all data analyzed by the task force. So this new group that they formed is basically like falling back into the old ways. And it was created in the interest of more transparency, but for some reason, its default is to keep everything classified by default. But I highly recommend people watch Chris Mellon's interviews. I mean, he is a legitimate insider who was like, I think he worked with Elizondo. And you can tell he knows more than he's saying too.
Oh, love it.
He worked with Tom DeLonge. He was like he was their security consultant or something. There's some title. He has some official title.
There was a falling out. I think there was a falling out with him and To the Stars.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that he kind of, he alludes to the fact that he knows more and he doesn't tell you, whereas Tom DeLonge basically says, well, I tell you more, but I can't. But I know more. I assure you that.
Right. That's just
it's the same thing that Lou does.
Right? Yeah.
You could argue that's the same thing that Lou Elizondo does. He's been, I don't know, watching some of Lou's interviews.
Hey, well, at least they're not asking for $59.99 like Stephen Greer after they say that.
Yeah.
I'll fill you in, but you got to download my app.
Yeah. Go out to the middle of the desert.
Yeah, Greer is funny, man. I mean, he's for some reason his episode got censored on Spotify. Because there's like 70 episodes of Rogan interviews that are not
didn't survive the fallout.
He probably got scooped up. They probably just scraped it with some basic guidelines. They had some low-level
random excuse
and just be like, let's pull all these things. This guy mentioned this, and off you go.
Yeah, you definitely get that kind of shivery feeling from. It's like Greer. You don't necessarily. He's not being straight up, but at the same time, the Disclosure Project. I mean, come on. That's a legendary event. The original one.
Yeah. His OG one from 99 or whatever it was.
Yeah. That was totally badass. And then,
Serious?
That was a great movie. Yeah.
Unreal. The fact that, whoever they had narrate that really grasps you in with, you're like, Greer's going to get shot. They make you feel that at the beginning of that movie. You're like, he knows some stuff.
I mean, to me, all of this stuff interrelates, or at least I've justified that in my brain, where, it's freedom of information to me is the base level principle. Free speech matters, but ultimately freedom of information is more important, because if you don't have access to the information of whatever system you're operating in, then you are in a delusion. You cannot even, you're not educated to a point that you can even have informed speech. You can't, the speech that you have is ignorant speech. So whether you're talking about the US government and our ability as citizens to understand what's happening in our country, well, we are uninformed. They're keeping just so much information from us that we are ignorant. And so our speech is sort of weak. And it's the same in the context of, all the secret algorithms on all the big tech apps. They have this status quo of everything is secret by default. And so we're just guessing. And it's just nonsense. So open source everything is really where, for sure with the government. I mean, I understand corporations would maybe have a little bit more argument to keep certain things secret, but with it's publicly funded. The whole national security excuse for keeping everything secret is, and that's the other thing that Mellon talks about in this Hill article. It's that, the national security excuse is dead, because if national security is the problem, then how come with the gimbal footage and Tic Tac, and why wasn't the government saying that those were causing national security? What national security problems did the release of those videos cause?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and then to come out and basically say that they're legit videos, and we recognize that we don't know what they are on camera, but they're actual real videos taken exactly as they're said. And we were like, well, then shit, like national security. Well, obviously these things outpaced us. You can listen to interviews with the people that were flying with them. They were like, they were meeting us at target points. They were like national security. These things obviously exceeded anything we could. So at that point, why not just be like, hey man, they're here. Like, obviously, like, we're not stupid. You can watch the videos. You can listen to the interviews. Like, Kevin Day was in tears with us when we asked him, we're like, well, how does it feel that this is, because he was vilified for years for coming out and saying this. And he like broke down into tears being like, for so long, people thought I was crazy.
Ruined my life, guys.
It ruined my life. And then he's like, it feels so good for them to come out and say this because I'm vindicated. Like, everything I said is not bullshit. It did happen. I did see those radars. I did report it, right? So and then you see that and you're like, okay, well, what's stopping you from just being like, okay, well, yeah, there's these crafts, and whether they're different nations or right. I don't think anyone
secret drones. No one's claiming anything. It's right? just it's foreign technology that is not being is not fully understood. And to your point, the national security threat is not knowing. Like, if anything, the release of the footage showed that there is a national security threat because we don't know what it is and we're not studying it in the public effectively enough. So it's it honestly just seems really dysfunctional. And
I think more of the reasoning behind like not declassifying a lot of the footage that they probably have of other craft or things like that is to actually, you don't want to broadcast, especially in the current political climate of the world as it is at this point, where there are countries that are actively and fundamentally against U.S. ideals and, U.S. and its allies at this point, Russia being one, but you don't want to broadcast the capabilities that you have. Much like we had the one thing where Trump tweeted out that picture of the CIA, like the CIA satellites had taken a picture of something. Like, most governments don't know that we have these satellites and what they're capable of. We have satellites up there that are like the size of the Hubble telescope, but instead of looking at planets and galaxies outside of our solar system, they're pointed down at the Earth, and you can determine capabilities. Or some people say it's like you can find something like within 5 inches. Like you could, that's the resolution that
it depends what you're talking about. Like if you're, Ronald Reagan famously, and many others have talked about how disclosure would bring us together as humans, and kind of, and that's sort of assuming
Independence Day style, one common enemy.
Well, we saw. I don't know. We saw how that kind of worked out in the last couple of years. So I mean, I don't know. Existential threats don't seem to kind of bring everybody together.
Yeah, but look at the reaction to the TikTok videos. I mean, if anything, it was like totally calm, and people were like,
"Cool,
fascinated, cool, yeah. What's next?" I mean, I don't think that further disclosure of, more videos is going to help Russia. I mean,
it's just it's them showing, being like, look, we have these types of infrared cameras, like these type of top secret technology that we're tracking. You don't want to show them that. You don't want to release these videos of being like, we have these on every type of spectrum.
There's a reason why he's not stateside, right? He's leaking too many secrets.
I like it how you guys mix it up. That makes it even better.
This is what I'm positing as a reason as to why they don't declassify a lot of the videos. Like the Tic Tac videos, those were determined, they went up for review and declassification. They said, yeah, those are ours. There's nothing in here that would disclose any type of abilities or,
I get what you're saying.
Those are our what? Those are our.
I think what he's saying is
the capabilities of the FA-18 Hornets that were falling. Yeah, the technology that they're using to track these things.
Right.
That might be a reason that
they're actually shooting these things in 5K, but we don't even know 5K exists yet, right? But the military's got it. But they're like, we can't let them know we have 5K cameras. They're all going to want new TVs.
I see. So you're saying if they've got some crazy satellite high def then that would expose tech that isn't
right. If they said like, we took this picture at 5 a.m. at da-da-da-da here with this satellite, da-da-da, and we released that information, our, potential enemies or people who are against our country would know that, this satellite is over this part of the sky at this time. That you could glean a whole bunch of information that probably wasn't
release all the blurry photos from the 70s and 60s. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I want. All right, we can start there and we can work our way up to the HD stuff.
Yeah, it takes 30 years to declassify this stuff, so it's got to be some shit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is definitely, that is the rationalization. But the question is, are we ever going to get beyond that? There has to come a point where, if things shift and there's just a default to transparency on the tech. Like, I don't know. I think
eventually our phones are going to get so good. They're going to be equipped with the IR cameras and everything else. And then there'll just be no questions anymore. Another 10, 20 years. You can buy a bunch of different.
We'll all get our personal satellites. We'll all get our personal Starlink satellites.
Yeah, you throw up your own little
sat
task
cube. Go do whatever you want.
So speaking of that, like Elon is actually very skeptical of UFOs, which is strange.
Because he is one.
He's the alien.
Yeah, he's trying to keep that shit on the wraps.
But like I think it was his last time on Rogan, and Joe was really trying to prod him about it, and
he wasn't having it.
You would, he was not. You guys, did you watch that?
Yeah, he was not having it.
He was, but he didn't even know about TikTok. He's
just not interested. Yeah.
How?
He probably knows about TikTok because he's probably buying them next.
There's a great. Have you ever read any or heard any lectures from Dr. Michael Masters?
No.
So we had him on the show. We talk about his theory all the time because we love it.
A little too much.
But his theory is that all these UFOs are perhaps various future versions of us, time traveling back in time. And then, as we talk about the cameras and stuff getting better, we could attribute, like if you're talking about his theory, we could attribute that to they don't come because they know they're going to be caught interfering, as close as we get more and more advanced. So that's why we had huge UFO fluxes in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And, it's seemingly tailed off. Well, that's what they'd like you to think. But I always kind of revert to that theory of very interesting guy. You should look him up sometime. He's got good stuff.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. I mean, in terms of priorities, it's insane to me that it's not a higher. I mean, the memes that you start seeing of like people seeing the aliens, and then it's just like, kind of like the NPC, and he's just like, oh, like, cool, like I don't care. People don't care. It's it gets talked about on the news. For a day. We're just helpless. So it doesn't matter. It's like there's really no recourse. The only recourse is to really get deep involved into some of this political stuff with, these new agencies and really try to, but like no one is going to do that. Like there's only a very select type of person even has the capability to kind of do the research necessary to get involved, like in the legal process associated with like FOIA around the new ATIP agency.
And a lot of time dealing with this kind of stuff is career suicide, right? Like it
was more so before. It seems to be a little more
loosening up now.
Yeah, still.
Right. But like all of us, we've ruined our careers doing this show.
Yeah, and we're done.
It was cool. It was cool seeing Harry Reid before he died really like put himself out there. I don't know if you guys saw any of those videos, but he really he fought hard in his last couple of years, and he gave some pretty insane interviews, like just
compelling.
Yeah. Yeah. And Hillary, there's the famous video or photos of Hillary and Podesta walking through that field, and she's holding I forget the book, but it's a really famous, who's the guy who was like the hypnosis, he was like this
Dr. Sprinkles.
No.
That's a real guy. I think he's joking. He's a real person.
Yeah, but then there's like the Obama, Hillary, and Bill Clinton all getting question by Jimmy Kimmel. And those, I think, are actually fascinating pieces of footage. Like, body language experts have, like, and just without body language experts, I mean, just looking at their reactions, honestly, it's weird. You guys know which ones I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. He asked them, like, what about UFOs?
Yeah.
And they'd say, like, Obama's like,
on the show. Yeah.
like, I can't,
No, but watch them
secret,
closely.
can't tell you.
Yeah, but watch
There's some tells
all
in
of
there.
them closely. Like, it's really, I think Obama's reaction is super weird. And then Hillary just point blank says, like, I tried.
Right.
And yeah. So
Obama definitely has a little bit of a
Smirk.
one of those.
He's got a little smirk.
Yeah, he's got a.
Yeah, but I would say he's that kind of person though. Like, he knows what kind of reaction he's going to get. And he thinks, I think he's a much more lighthearted. I mean, he's a fun dude.
First he joked about it in his initial reaction, but then he sort of goes cold and says, like, no, but like, I can't talk about it. And maybe he was just being deadpan, honestly.
I think he's that. I think
he is. Yeah.
See, you watch his, like, when he did like the
Between Two Ferns.
press. Yeah, well, Between Two Ferns, and he does like even when he did his like press, like the president roasts and like all of that stuff. He's a good sport, and he has a really good sense of humor.
Yeah,
and so I think he could pull that off and be like that. I mean, that shit I would do. Like, I would be like, yeah, I can't talk about it, but what about I can't tell you. Like, I would just go dead in the eyes and be like 1,000-yard stare.
That would be
Dan and Obama, same guy.
But
Same guy.
Not saying that he doesn't know something. Like, I would imagine that any president that gets in there, Trump included, would have been like, hey, where are the bodies? Where are the aliens? Show me. And then, top generals would be like, don't tell him.
Yeah, for sure. We've talked about that
him.
before, that not necessarily president, even though they're, the chief, the head, what is it called?
They're
in the States?
temporary
Commander-in-Chief.
They're a
Commander-in-Chief?
temporary elected position, though. They're not.
Yeah, like there's, we've talked about there's generals that have been there for like life, right? And it's like they're not just going to give this information to them.
Even stuff that goes up to like the Senate Intelligence Committee, like that goes into there, like that for declassification, or like even I think that's where the UAP task force is going to send like their new reports. Their annual reports now are going to go to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Those people have clearances, but not necessarily, they might not have like the type of clearances that are like need to know. Like, it's like, if you don't need to know, we're not going to tell you. There's like 20 people that need to know about this and that to work with this information, and you're not one of them. And we're not going to tell you about it because it would put you at risk or national security at risk, whatever. I don't know. But I would think it would be something like that.
One day Dan's going to spill his CIA secrets and tell us all about it. But until then, we're kind of in the dark here. But Bill, just before we let you go, if people want to make the leap, get off the big tech ones, get off Instagram, Facebook, all those social medias, it's free to sign up. It's just minds.com and free account and all that. Yeah,
or you can get the apps on the app stores. You also don't, I actually don't push for the cold turkey approach. It's a little bit too much. People go into withdrawal and then they start hemorrhaging on the floor if they, aren't able to
it's a supplement.
check their Twitter.
Supplement first.
So supplement, ease into it. Supporting alternatives is, it's going to be a dystopian future if we don't. So, and I'm not even it's not just all about Minds. Like, I'm trying all of the other options. Today I tried this cool one called Capsule Social, which is like pretty fully decentralized, but they're not fully open to the public yet, but it's pretty cool. Like, I'm constantly trying to find other alternatives that we can integrate with and, make ourselves more decentralized. So, hit me up. I'm at Ottman, OTTMAN on Minds. Hit me up. Thanks guys for having me. This is awesome. Look forward to talking more.
All right. We're going to take a short break, say goodbye to Bill, and we'll be right back.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
And we're back. Bill Ottman. Beauty.
Yeah, he's a
Billio.
He's younger than us, and he's a CEO.
Puts us to shame.
No.
Hey, you know what?
We're CEOs.
We're co-CEOs of a small 4-person
That's true.
sub
Yes.
6-figure company.
Not about quantity, it's about quality.
Yeah.
It's not about quantity, it's about quality.
Yes, that's true.
But he makes on same like train of thought as me, as far as like the censorship stuff. I mean, the ability for them to just like pull and block people because they don't agree with what they're saying is like, it's a slippery slope, you know, like free speech, like I don't agree with what you say, but I die if you're right to defend it kind of thing is like kind of like, nah, fuck you. We're just good. I don't like what you say and you're dead. Your business all the money is thousands of dollars of advertising and building your followers. You're done. See ya. Bye.
One, it's like, and then it's like, oh, you want to do an ad? Well, if you pay X amount, we will give you the reach for 2 days that you used to have organically.
Yeah, it's
Right.
I mean, they're trying to make money. I mean, that's the way it goes, I guess. But
I can't wait to see it crash and burn, man.
no, hey, that's coming, I think. I mean,
Just like MySpace just sits there.
Just
Like,
like-
oh,
yeah,
can you still go on to Facebook accounts?
I don't know though, man. It's got its tentacles into everything now. Like how many new websites or whatever do you try to sign up with? And it's like login through Facebook, login through this. Like it's fucking.
well, that's that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
boys.
they're in all. Yeah, sign up with
everywhere
Google. Sign
now.
up with Facebook.
Yeah.
The only thing that bugs me about these kinds of conversations is always being like it's always the little guy. It's always like the personal battle between you and big tech. Like, and then
Well, it's everyone's
big tech, like
it's everyone's battle against big tech.
right. But what I'm saying is like, who's going to enforce? Who should keep them? You know, who watches the watchers? Like, who's going to enforce these regulations? Like, we want all these things. We want transparency. You see some states like California and like Washington State recently, some places that are like, they're telling big tech companies, like, if you want people's data, you have to pay for it. You know, and like they're starting to institute a lot of these legislation and
Pay me for it,
rules and
motherfucker. It's
regulations.
my data.
Right. That's what they're saying, that that you should get paid for that. And that's why a lot of those places like now, like especially in California, I think they have to ask you and you can opt out of like data collection. Like
Dude,
a lot of those websites that now you see those
Facebook
things
should
that
cut
say
me a
like you can
fucking
opt out of cookies. That is a result. That's like a direct result of legislation that has been come out.
As we're just talking about, and it's been brought many times by many people, when you opt out of that stuff, it's never a full opt out. No chance that they're like, I opt out of cookies and then there's just no cookies. It's impossible.
Right. And so it's like, but then it's like down to accountability. Like who should hold them accountable? Like if you really wanted to get into it and be like, I want to file a lawsuit against you because you say you're doing it, but you're not really doing it. So who should enforce those rules?
Yeah,
who should be?
Well, hey, listen, we got.
It can't just be us. It can't just be like, hey, it's your responsibility. Like just the small person,
we need social media cops.
Should the government have like a special body that does these kinds of things? When I think it is part of it is our government doesn't really understand how a lot of social media works. Like,
yeah, Dan, I get what you're saying, but why can't, like he's saying, more of a community minded like appeal process?
Because it depends on, which is fine. Like I'm saying, that's all fine. But who's going to tell them?
There's no way you're going to be able to
right now.
If there's 10,000 people a day worldwide being banned for
is that scalable though? Like that kind of community set. Like when you have 10 million users, is that kind of community thing?
When they started social media, was it scalable to reach the entire world? They did no idea. They're like, this is for college kids to.
But do you want to do the same thing over again? Because now that just sounds like you're starting at the beginning and then you're just going to, it's just going to happen again.
I'm saying there obviously needs to be change, and many people agree that there needs some, I don't know, Dan. I wish I could tell you the answer there.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, I would argue that there needs to be, especially in the United States, our government is run by a bunch of 80% of them don't know how to fucking log into Twitter or know what Twitter is. Like, don't know how to set their phones on fucking silent.
Yeah, there was that when they were doing those committees and then they were asking some of the they were asking some of like the senators and stuff to explain social media, and they
total
were just
fucking
like,
morons.
and they had no fucking idea,
You're
but they
the
were
people
trying
who are
to
writing
sit
the
there
laws.
Hold on, Dan.
and ask questions, and they had no idea. They just had no idea. And I think there's a weird disconnect between lawmakers and social media because
100%.
it's a different era that doesn't fucking use it. You know, you got a fucking 70-year-old politician, right? Who's got a staffer that runs his social media account. He doesn't fucking know what he's doing.
Yeah, you think fucking Ted Cruz knows what TikTok is, decides what his fucking
that old
daughters are
bastard knows how to
posting?
navigate his way around fucking YouPorn. He can figure it out.
Yeah, but as far as all this stuff goes, I mean, yeah, it's one thing to say, oh, they're too big to fail. I don't think that's true. I think if something, just like any type of business, a better model comes along that's more fair and people like it better, there's no
we'll
way
see it
that,
fail.
even if Facebook never goes away completely, like having a massive chunk of market share being not just by Minds, but like by a dozen smaller companies, and they all kind of work together, and it's like a different version. And if you choose not to use Facebook, but you can accomplish everything you wanted to do on these smaller networks, then there's no reason that can't happen.
And honestly, if you like just look at history, if Zellers can fail, any big company
Anyone
can fail.
Absolutely. Listen, they had the lowest price.
It was the law.
there.
It was the law.
And it didn't work out. Like, come on.
Dan, how can you not
Foolproof.
be successul when the lowest price is
literally the law.
It's
The lowest
law.
price is the law.
It's the law.
And you fail as a company.
They had a great jingle.
Right?
Makes no sense. Bulletproof.
Yeah.
Bulletproof business model.
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense.
Anyways,
I guess maybe they didn't have enough sales. They didn't make enough profit.
you know what? Better businesses came along that did the same thing, and that's what happened to Zellers.
Well, it's like Sears, right? Sears crashed and crumbled to Amazon, Blockbuster to Netflix, right? It's
better comes along,
We're going
man.
to see these things come and go, and we're going to see bigger and better things.
I think so. I
take
think it's
over.
just, the
I think
natural
these are
evolution
periods
of-
in times. Yeah, exactly. Where these companies
Things are
have
going to get worse.
It's either- yeah,
Yeah,
going to get a
you
lot
think it's bad
worse.
now?
It's going to get worse.
A
You
lot
think it's
worse
bad
before it gets
now?
better.
Skynet's coming.
Yeah.
Anyways, let us know what you think of our conversation with Bill. I mean, obviously, this is a major topic just in the world in general, in all aspects of everyday life. It's like affecting everyone, and pretty much everyone now is on social media. And yeah, it's a weird time. So let us know. Let us know. Facebook, Instagram. Anywhere you can
Twitter.
find us.
Or
Let us know on Minds.
yeah, go to
Minds.
headtominds.com, make an account, and follow your boys Alien
Mind
Theorists.
us on Minds.
Theorizing. We're going to be
we're on
posting a
there.
lot more there. We've been lazy. To be honest, I didn't even
Like
know
we
what
said
it was
before,
for a while.
social media is a tool. Depends on how you use it.
This is true.
Yeah, and we're
But
also,
tools.
it also uses you.
So it's hard for us.
We're the tools.
Yeah, we're the tools. So I will
the
be
fucking
posting more
tools.
on mine. So it's because I fucking hate Facebook now. Ever since the
Yeah, the absolute. We got melted down. What can you do?
yeah.
Hey.
Well, and then the worst part is I'm like, the review process is like I said, you have to go to the fucking oversight board.
We'll never get reviewed. We'll have to restart it. We'd have to restart a whole new page.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Right? It's not like they're not going to review it because we're not big enough. We don't hold any kind of public sway. So they don't give a fuck. They only do 18 cases a year. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, why is it telling me, the co-runner of a page, Alien Theorists Theorizing, who's trying to get them to review a peanut butter post that they flagged for fake news, to say that, well, it's not really. It was a joke post. Like the post is funny if you read in the context of the tagline, and it was a joke. It wasn't someone's being like, you
Look what they're doing
the thing is-
here.
but you technically
I
can.
really have a feeling that it was like scraped up by their AI, like the early days when they deployed like that AI to
That's
kind of
yeah,
start
sure,
picking up this
sure.
information.
That's
Like,
like
you
right.
can't-
and I
you can't even review
understand
it.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I
There's
know,
no
and that's total
recourse.
bullshit. Like I
Right?
do agree with that, but I'm just saying that that's probably what happened. And I'm like, if that post gets taken down, if that post gets appealed by another bigger one, then we should be rolled into that. Is what I think should happen. Like if that if that post gets verified or something, if somebody else got hit on that, then we should be able to.
Hey, if
Should do
you
a
or anyone
class
you know
action.
has been banned by a fake peanut butter post, please call 1-833-703-0424 and let
Be
us know.
entitled
We
to
will file our
compensation.
class action lawsuit.
to the oversight
you
board.
may be entitled to damages and compensation.
Anyways, the whole
good.
social media thing, everyone knows it's fucked, but we're in the trap. It's hard to break away. So pay attention to what Bill's doing and, keep our keep our eyes on it.
Check it out. Hey, if you want to go on an app and to follow our stuff, like I said, I'm going to be posting on there just as much. So if you're a person that doesn't like to be tracked and you want to look at weird aliens
total control
and stuff
over your cyber
and
experience.
weird, fake peanut butter posts, you can check out our minds.com
Let's see if we can
page.
get a slider that can say more aliens, less aliens, more aliens.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll just make one that says that, and I'll put it on the bottom of our page. Do you want me to do Theory of the Week?
Yeah, I do.
All right, Theory of the Week. We said it. We did a call to action, and we got some responses. We need those 5-star reviews. If you're listening to the show, you've never given us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, do it. It helps the show tremendously. For a while there, we were only receiving 1-star reviews for a while. Not that we were getting lots, but those were the only ones coming in. It's an easy thing to forget, but it helps us tremendously. So the Theorite of the Week this week gave us a 5-star review, and they took the time to write a little nice thing. So Theorite of the Week is D-Ball79.
D-Ball
and
79.
they gave us a 5-star review, and they said, fascinating and fun. These guys are fantastic. Andrew, all capitals, Dan, Zell, and Braden are an awesome group of boys that like to kick back, have some brews, and discuss conspiracy theories, strange happenings, and some light true crime. Want a podcast that will have you laughing and spinning theories of your own? Well, it's about time you check out these fellows out, eh? And that's from D-Ball79. D-Ball79, you're the Theorite of the Week.
Juiced out.
Hey, you'll never understand how much we're talking about algorithms today. Those 5-star reviews, they pump you. If you start getting them, that's what happens. We appreciate it.
Start pumping. So if you want to be Theorite of the Week, you write a good one, because those ones pop to us. Like we get sent all our reviews. So when we, there's always ones that's like, hey, thumbs up, good work. Hey, I love the show. But when someone takes a nice, you're going through the 5 stars and you see a little brick message, I always take the time to stop and read them, because I'm like, I want to see what that person had to write. They wrote a nice long one, and only 90% of the time they make fun of us. So
that's kind of a bonus, actually. It makes it a little funnier. So feel free. If it's 5-star, just say whatever you want.
and to be honest, if you want to, if you do a nice heartfelt one, we read it on the show, your Theory of the Week.
Hell yeah. If you're not supporting the show, like every
Suck
week.
Suck it.
Oh, you know where to go by now. alientheorist.com. Find the link for the Patreon, the Supercast, early access. 1 week early now, switching it up. So if you listen to the case file, you could have heard it a week earlier on Patreon. This week's newest supporters, Foxy Mulder.
It's a great name.
Sexual. I don't know if I said that right at all. Will Chambers. Compos Mentix. I always feel like someone's trying to fuck with me with these. Henry Witherspoon. DJ Ross. Matthew. Ari Sweden, and a full year pledge by Joey Jojo Smalo. Thank you very much for supporting the show. Joey Jojo Smalo.
Yeah.
And as we
always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.
In After Hours.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. Ah.